7-6 is mostly just vocab. So starting with a circle, the center is right in the middle. A radius is from the center to the outside edge. The straight line is called a radius. Diameter is all the way across the circle, right through the center. That's the diameter. The diameter is twice as long as the radius. An arc, that might be a new one, is a portion of the circumference. It's a portion of the outside section of the circle, and it's called an arc. So what is a central angle? I'm going to draw the picture over here so it's more obvious. A central angle is an angle with the vertex right at the center of the circle. So central angle has a vertex at the center. When we talk about an angle, we could get out a protractor and we can measure it. So I could, for instance, measure this theoretically and say that that is 80 degrees. I don't know if it's really 80 degrees, close enough. When I talk about how it relates in the measure to the arc, if I asked you for the measure of this arc, you would also say that it is 80 degrees. They share the same number of degrees. The arc and the central angle are essentially the same in that regard. So moving on, what's a semicircle, a major arc, and a minor arc? I'm going to start with a semicircle. A semicircle is half of the circle but in terms of an arc, I'm not talking about the diameter. I wouldn't draw a half circle. I just go halfway around the circle. That is a semicircle. In order to have notation for a semicircle, you need 3 points. You need its start, its end, and any point the direction you're going. I'll put it here. If I wanted to show that I was going around the bottom half of the circle, which is also a semicircle, I would put the point down there. I'm pretty lazy, pretty uninventive. I'll call my 3 points A, B, C. And then there's a little curvy line above it to show that you're going along the curve, starting at A and going to C. You could also start at C, go along the curve, and go back to A. Doesn't really matter where you start and where you finish. They always, by the way, are exactly 180 degrees when they are a semicircle. A major arc is more than half a circle. So if it came out as 200 degrees, 250 degrees, those are major arcs. Going all the way around the circle, be reminded, is 360 degrees. So for a major arc, it just means I'm going around more than half the circle. So that'd be an example of a major arc. As far as notation, you need a start, an end, and a point somewhere in the middle to show that I didn't take the shortcut between the points. So D, E, F. Just like a semicircle, you need 3 points to show that you went the long way. It doesn't matter which direction you go, but the letters do need to be in the order that they would be traced. A minor arc is simply less than half. minor arcs are probably used more often when we're thinking about circles. As long as I go less than half a circle, it's a minor arc. You only need 2 points for a minor arc because that's the shortest distance between those 2 points. So if I call this GH, whenever you see 2 letters, you could also go the other way, HG. You know that it's going to come out as less than 180 degrees. As how much of the circle you've done. So what are the formulas for circumference and arc length? This is number 4. Explain how they are related. The circumference, if you don't remember, that's the fancy word for the perimeter of a circle. If I was going to walk along the edge, how long of a path is it? It is pi times the diameter of the circle. If I wanted to find an arc length, that's just going around part of the circle, but still along the edge. Like if on the previous example, on the minor arcs, if I was just walking from G to H, how far would I walk? If I walked along the edge of the circle from G to H, that would be an arc length. Figuring out how long that is. To find the arc length, you need to know how many degrees it is from G to H. The degrees of the arc divided by 360 times pi times diameter. Basically, it is a fraction of the circumference. As far as examples go on this particular section, they're going to have you do 2 things. They're going to have you identify a bunch of things of the circle, and then they're going to have you find circumferences and arc lengths. So my first example is going to do kind of an identification. I'm going to draw a circle, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of things about it. Let's see. Make my center of my circle Q, M, N, and S. I'll make these little points on the outside edge. So they'll say things like, give me an example of a minor arc. Well, an example of a minor arc is if I go around the circle, as long as I go less than half the circle, I have to go from point to point. So if I go from N to S, that would be a minor arc. From N to S is a minor arc. Minor arcs need 2 letters. They might ask you something like, give me a semicircle. Well, for a semicircle, I need half a circle, and I need there to be 3 letters. So the only way I can go half a circle and get 3 letters in this particular drawing is to do the top half of the circle. You can go either direction. I'm just going to go left to right. So M, N, S would be an example of a semicircle. They might ask you for a major arc. A major arc means I need to go around more than half the circle, and I need 3 letters. So for instance, starting at N, going all the way to M, that would give me more than half a circle. So N, S, M would give me more than half a circle. Notice that all of these have some of the same letters in them. That's why the notation is so important. The letters need to be in the correct order. For minor arcs, you only use 2 letters. For major arcs and semicircles, you always use 3 letters, and you make sure that the 3 letters are in the correct order. Other things that they might ask, you need to be able to find 2 adjacent arcs. If they use the word adjacent, it means next to each other. So if they ask you for adjacent, like M, N, and NS are adjacent because they're right going from M to N and N to S, you'd go right next to each other. They could ask you for a central angle. Remember, for an angle, you need 3 letters typically. Sometimes you can shortcut it to 1, but typically you need 3 letters. And the middle letter has to be the vertex. For a central angle, for our angles, Q is going to be the vertex. That's what's going to make it central. So for instance, I could use this right here as my central angle. So that would be angle MQN. I put the little curvy thing on the angle just to make sure that you know I'm not writing the letter L. L's can be super confusing in geometry. I could ask you for a radius. A radius is just from the center to the outside. I have 3 choices. I could do QM, QN, or QS. I'll do QN just for no particular reason. It is straight, so I put a straight line above it. A diameter goes all the way across. I use the endpoints. M to S would be a diameter. If they put little m's in front of things, so let me give you some extra information. Let's say we knew that it was 70 degrees inside that angle right there. If I asked you for the measure of NS, it would equal 70 degrees. Whenever you see the M, know that they're asking you for the angles. If I asked you then for the measure of MN, they're saying go the short way from M to N. When you do that, sorry, I started to become kind of a mess. I don't know the number, so how do I figure it out? Well, we know NS is 70. Then if I go from M to S, it would be 180 because that's half a circle. So it's 180 degrees minus the 70 degrees, which gives me 110 degrees. What if I asked you for the measure of NSM? That means I'm starting at N, I'm going to S. It's the blue one I have marked. So N, S, and back around to M. Well, that's half a circle plus that extra 70 degrees. So this would equal 70 plus 180, which equals 250 degrees. It's a major arc. It comes out as more than 180. So that's how you figure out the measurements. You sometimes have to deal with the 180s, deal with the 360s. Remember, half is 180 and all the way around is 360. Just to do a quick circumference and arc length, I'm going to draw a new picture because that one was just getting really, really busy. So I have a circle. I'm going to draw it very similar. I'll say that this is 55 degrees. Go for A, B, C. And I'll say that this radius right here is 3 feet. So I want the circumference of the circle. And I also want the arc length of BC. To find the circumference of the circle, remember it's pi times the diameter. And so in this case, it's pi times 6 feet, which is 6 pi feet. Sometimes they'll ask you just to leave it with the pi. Sometimes you'll throw in your calculator and get an actual decimal. So the arc length of BC. When they're asking you for that, they're asking you how far is it just from here to here? Well, you need to know the measurement in degrees in order to do it. Once you have that, it's fairly easy. 55 out of 360 is the fraction of the circumference that I need. And then you just multiply it out. I'm not sure what this actually comes out to be. You can put it in your calculator if you really want to know. Just make sure you have the fraction and then you're multiplying it by pi times the diameter. Remember, the diameter is all the way across, so if they give you the radius, you have to double it. And that's it for this lesson.